What would you do if the woman you loved vanished overnight and when you finally found her, she was bruised, broken, and held captive by your own mother? This isn't just a love story. It's a story of betrayal that cuts deep, of power used like a weapon, and of a girl who cleaned hotel rooms by day but uncovered a legacy of secrets by night. Grace Evans was just trying to survive. Ethan Cole was never supposed to notice her, but one spilled cup of coffee turned their worlds upside down, and what began as an accident spiraled into a fight for truth, freedom, and justice. You think you know how stories like this go. The rich man saves the poor girl, but not this time, because this girl saved herself. And by the end of the story, someone will lose everything, and someone will walk away with nothing but her name and her dignity. Stay with us. The truth inside this tale is louder than any fairy tale you've ever heard. The sun was merciless that morning, melting the pavement as heat shimmered over the city. Grace Evans rushed through the sidewalk chaos in a faded uniform 2 sizes too big, holding a steaming cup of black coffee in one hand and a ragged tote in the other. Her shoes pinched her feet with every step. She was already late for her shift at the Grand Crest Hotel, and she couldn't afford to be late, not with Lily still burning with fever, not when her paycheck meant medicine or no medicine. Ethan Cole checked his watch again, eyes narrow. The foreign investors were waiting in the hotel's penthouse suite, and his driver had bailed due to traffic. Now one of America's richest men was marching through the streets like a regular commuter, his designer suit baking under the Georgia sun. He turned the corner, and that's when it happened. The girl appeared out of nowhere, small frame, messy bun, wild eyes, and collided right into him. The cup flew. Boiling liquid splashed across his chest and expensive jacket. He stumbled back, swearing under his breath. I'm so sorry," Sir Grace gasped, frozen horrified. Ethan looked down at the spreading stain and then up at her. The crowd slowed, eyes turned. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he growled, voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "I didn't see you, please. I was just," she stammered. "Rushing." Clearly, Ethan snapped. "You've just ruined a deal worth more than you'll make in 10 lifetimes. Grace's hands trembled. People were staring. She bowed her head, trying to apologize again, but Ethan brushed past her, seething. Inside the hotel, he scrubbed at the stain in the restroom mirror, fury etched into every muscle. The meeting was a disaster. One investor whispered about his lack of control. His reputation, his legacy teetered, all because of a girl in a janitor's uniform. That night, he returned to his suite, late, ready to forget the day. He opened the door, stepped inside, and stopped cold. There, curled in the middle of his bed, lay that same girl. She was fast asleep, clutching a cleaning spray in one hand, like a child with a teddy bear. Her head rested on his pristine pillows, her chest rising and falling in the soft glow of the bedside lamp. Ethan's fury ignited. He strode forward and shook her shoulder. "Hey, what the hell are you doing in my room?" Grace bolted upright, her face pale with shock. "Oh God, I didn't mean, I was just cleaning. I must have fainted. I didn't mean to, please. I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. Her eyes darted to the door. "You fainted," Ethan's voice rose. "Do you think I'm an idiot?" He grabbed the phone. "Security, now." Within minutes, 2 guards and the hotel manager appeared. Grace stood trembling, her face drained of color. "Mr. Cole," the manager said quietly, pulling him aside. "This is Grace Evans. She's one of our most reliable staff. She works double shifts almost every day. Her sister's ill. She didn't mean to cause trouble." Ethan hesitated. His gaze drifted back to her. Her eyes, exhausted but proud, met his, and something inside him shifted just slightly. That same pride, that same fire. It haunted him. "Let her go," he muttered. "But I don't want her near this floor again." Security led her out gently. Ethan collapsed on the edge of the bed, rubbing his temples. He couldn't explain it, why she stayed in his mind long after she left. Why her apology hit differently. Why her silence said more than words ever could. The next morning when he ordered breakfast, he made a strange request. "I want Grace Evans to bring it." The receptionist hesitated. "Sir, you heard me." When Grace was called, her heart sank. Room 1201. Him again. Why, she knocked. The door opened instantly. Ethan stood there in another suit, less angry this time, more unreadable. "You're early," he said. "I didn't want to be late again," she replied softly, eyes lowered. He didn't speak, just let her in. As she placed the tray, he said quietly, "Your hands shake when you're nervous." She froze. "I'm sorry." No further words. Just a quiet nod. And when she left, she found a small envelope tucked under the tray. Inside, a crisp tip enough for 2 days of wages? Why, that was only the beginning. Lunch, dinner, the next day. The same request, only grace. Whispers started in the staff kitchen. Why her? Was he mocking her? Was this some cruel game Grace didn't know? But on the 4th day, everything changed. Ethan invited her to sit. "I don't sit in guest rooms," she said. "I'm not a guest," he replied. "I'm a man with a question." She paused, then sat. "Do you always work this hard?" he asked. "I don't have a choice," she said. "My sister's all I have." He nodded slowly. "Take care of her and yourself." That night when she returned to the laundry room, she found something beneath her cleaning cloth. A handwritten note. "Meet me after your shift. Garden entrance. Don't worry, you're not in trouble." E.C. Grace stared at the paper, heart racing. She didn't know it yet, but this wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of a war. We're so sorry to pause the story here. There's still so much more to come. But before we continue, we want to know, do you think Ethan genuinely cares for Grace? Or is this just guilt disguised as kindness? And if you were in Grace's shoes, would you trust him? Or walk away before it's too late? Tell us where you're watching from. We love knowing how far these stories travel. And if you felt even a flicker of emotion, please like the video and tap that heart. We promise the next part will leave you speechless. Grace told herself she wouldn't go. She folded the note in her pocket and repeated it like a prayer. Don't go, don't trust him, don't be stupid. But when her shift ended, her feet moved before her thoughts could catch up. She walked to the garden entrance behind the Grand Crest Hotel, her breath shallow and her pulse tapping against her ribs like a warning drum. Ethan was already there, standing beneath a tall magnolia tree, hands in his pockets, staring at nothing. When he saw her, he didn't smile, didn't move, just exhaled slowly, like he hadn't realized he'd been holding his breath all day. "I thought you wouldn't come," he said quietly. "I wasn't sure if I should." Grace replied, hugging her arms. "That's fair." Silence stretched between them. Grace was about to turn around when he stepped forward. "Let me drive you home tomorrow," Ethan said. "I want to understand where you come from." "No," she said instantly, shaking her head. "That's not a good idea." "I won't come in," he promised. "I just want to see your world." Grace looked up at him for a long moment. His voice wasn't sharp. His suit was still perfect, but his eyes weren't cold anymore. They were human. She whispered, "Only if no one knows." Done. The next evening, Ethan waited outside the staff parking lot beside a sleek black SUV. Grace approached wearing her off-duty clothes, worn sandals, a faded hoodie, hair tied back tight. She looked up at him and asked, "No bodyguards, not today." They drove in silence. Out of downtown, past the bright lights and clean sidewalks, into a part of Atlanta few billionaires ever saw. Broken fences, generators rattling, kids running barefoot on cracked pavement. "I can walk from here," she murmured as they reached her street. "I'll walk with you." She hesitated, then nodded. They stopped at a small brick house barely holding itself up. Laundry lines crisscrossed the yard. Inside, her sister Lily lay coughing on a thin mattress, her tiny arms hugging a teddy bear, missing one eye. "Did you bring bread?" the girl asked weakly. Grace smiled, her eyes wet. "Tomorrow, baby." Ethan stood in the doorway, silent, watching. Something shifted in his chest that night, something unfixable. The next day, Grace found a brown paper bag in her locker, antibiotics, vitamins. No name, no note. But she knew, and every few days after more bags appeared, a prepaid clinic receipt, fresh groceries. Still, Ethan never spoke of it. Never asked for thanks, just a nod in the hallway. Then it happened. Margaret Cole, Ethan's mother, returned from London 3 weeks early. She was ice in heels, a woman who never needed to raise her voice to instill fear. The moment she entered the hotel, the air tightened, and when she reached the presidential suite, and saw the faint smell of jasmine, the trace of warmth in her son's face, she knew something had changed, and she didn't like it. The next morning, Grace received a note, formal, cold. "You are cordially invited for tea with Mrs. Cole, Suite 1102. 4 p.m. sharp." She didn't tell Ethan. She just wore her best dress, tied her bun tight, and knocked at the door at 3:59. Margaret answered herself. "Welcome, Grace," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Tea was served in silence in China that probably cost more than Grace's yearly salary. Then came the words delivered like sugar-coated poison. "You seem sweet." "Quiet." "That's good," Margaret said. "But girls like you don't belong in stories like this." Grace flinched. "I never asked to be part of any story, ma'am." Margaret's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then stay in your place, Grace, because kindness doesn't buy legacy, and legacy is all that matters." Grace stood. "I clean floors, yes, but I do it with dignity. Thank you for the tea." She walked out, proud, silent, but the next morning she was gone. No one knew where. No one saw her leave. Her badge was turned in, her locker emptied. Ethan was told she'd resigned. But that wasn't the truth. Grace hadn't quit. She'd been taken. A man had called her name outside the hotel's back door. She turned, a cloth pressed to her mouth. Darkness. She awoke in a cold, windowless warehouse near the docks, her wrists tied. Lily curled up beside her, shivering with fever. 2 men entered, smiling. "You should have stayed silent," one sneered. Lily whimpered. "I'm so cold," Grace screamed. "She needs medicine." They laughed. "We'll see. Depends on how well you behave." She crawled to her sister, held her tightly, whispering prayers she wasn't sure anyone was listening to. She wasn't supposed to survive this, but Grace Evans had already survived worse. "We know. This is a terrible place to pause the story, and we're so sorry for interrupting it here. But if someone took everything from you, would you fight back with fire or with silence? And do you think Ethan will believe the truth before it's too late? Let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing all the different places these stories reach. And if this part made your heart ache or race, please hit like and tap that heart. The next part, it burns. The wind howled outside the old warehouse as Grace lay curled around Lily's fragile body. Her little sister's breathing had become shallow, weak. Her lips were pale, her forehead burning. Grace whispered through cracked lips, "Hold on, baby, just one more day." But time wasn't something they had. That night, Lily's hand slipped from Grace's. Her chest stopped rising, and the silence that followed, it was the kind that breaks a soul forever. Grace screamed a sound so raw, so primal, it silenced even the guards. For 2 days, she didn't speak. She didn't eat. She didn't cry. She just stared at the wall like she was trying to watch the world end. But on the 3rd night, something changed. She waited until the guards fell asleep. Then she dragged a broken spoon behind her back, worked at the ropes until her wrist bled. When the knot gave way, she stood. Her legs trembled, but she moved toward the door. A voice snarled behind her. "Where do you think you're going?" A fist crashed into her face. Then another. They didn't kill her, but they made sure she'd remember she wasn't going anywhere. What they didn't realize was that she already had a plan. Miles away at the Cole estate in Savannah, cameras flashed. Guests clinked glasses. Tonight was the engagement of Ethan Cole and Vanessa Carter, 2 names bred for power. Margaret Cole smiled for the press, her grip on her son's legacy tighter than ever. But Ethan wasn't smiling. He sat stiffly beside Vanessa, his mind somewhere else. Everywhere else. Grace. He hadn't heard from her in days. Something wasn't right. "Where's her resignation letter?" he asked his assistant. "HR has it, sir." Typed, signed. He scanned the paper. The signature was off, too neat, too cold. This isn't her handwriting. He stood. Minutes later, he was in a car following a silver Mercedes that had left the estate earlier. Margaret was inside. The car led him through forgotten streets until it stopped outside a rusted warehouse. Ethan followed on foot, slipped through a side door, and hid behind crates. He heard everything. Margaret's voice sharp like ice. "You thought you could replace me in his heart, foolish girl. This world doesn't belong to cleaners. It belongs to legacies." And then he saw her, Grace, bruised, bloodied, motionless on the floor. His heart stopped. Then it exploded. He rushed in. The guards lunged, but he didn't stop. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Grace." No response. He scooped her into his arms. Her blood soaked his shirt. Her head lolled. Margaret appeared in the doorway. "What have you done?" he whispered. She tried to speak, but he looked right through her. At the hospital, machines beeped steadily. Grace lay unconscious, her face pale against the white sheets. "I canceled the engagement," Ethan said to no one. "I canceled everything." Days passed. Then one morning, Grace opened her eyes. He was there, sitting beside her eyes, red face unshaven. "You're awake," he said, voice breaking. She nodded weakly. "Where's Lily?" His breath caught. "I buried her with flowers," he said softly. "I made sure." Grace turned her face away. Weeks later, she moved into a small apartment Ethan had prepared. Doctors visited. Her bruises faded, but her silence didn't. One day, he brought her a velvet box. "I had this made." Before everything he said, inside was a gold band. Simple, elegant. She stared at it, then closed the box. "The girl you wanted to marry," she whispered, "died with her sister." Ethan nodded slowly. "I know," but Grace didn't disappear. She stayed, not for him, but for herself. And over time, something bloomed. Not quickly, not loudly, but in small, fragile pieces. The way she said good morning one day. The way he smiled without expecting anything in return. The way she finally asked, "Did you ever love your father?" Ethan paused. "I think he loved me in the quietest way possible. I just never learned how to hear it." Grace nodded. "Then maybe now?" "You will." Months passed. Spring arrived. One Sunday afternoon, Grace walked into the sunroom and handed Ethan a folder. Inside, letters, journals, medical reports. Evidence that Margaret had slowly poisoned his father to keep control. Letters he never knew existed. Grace had found them. She hadn't exposed his mother publicly. She hadn't destroyed the Cole name. She'd handed the truth to Ethan and let him choose what to do with it. "Why give me this?" he asked. "Because healing shouldn't be revenge," she said. "It should be choice." And in that moment, something between them finally shifted from pain to peace. They didn't rush into vows, or headlines, or promises they couldn't keep. But Ethan planted flowers outside her window, and Grace cooked dinner on Fridays. And some nights she fell asleep with her hand resting gently over his. And that was enough, because sometimes love doesn't arrive wrapped in fairy tales. Sometimes it rises from the ruins, quiet, patient, real. Now it's your turn to speak. Do you believe love can truly heal even after deep betrayal? And if you were in Grace's place, would you have stayed or walked away forever? What do you think of this story? If you loved it, comment number 3 below. If you feel unsure, hit number 2. And if it didn't speak to you, it's okay to say no. 1, we want to hear your truth. Also, tell us where you're watching from. Your voice matters. If this story moved you, please tap the heart and share it. Grace's story might just help someone else believe in healing too.